Hello everyone and welcome back to the studio here in Northumberland. Today I'm going to do an acrylic painting, and what I've done to start with is pre-stain a canvas just with raw sienna. It doesn't matter what mess it is, it can be drippy and everything, but it doesn't matter because you're going to cover everything up with the paint you put on top afterwards. But a pre-stain just kind of like glows through here and there, wherever you leave bits of canvas showing. So it kind of keeps everything nice and even. I know what I mean by that. There are a couple of books to do with acrylics that I've got out. This one's been out quite a while actually. So the painting I'm going to do today is a boat at sea, a fishing boat in a rough sea. And this one, What to Paint Boats and Harbours, is such a handy book. It's got loads of different boats in loads of different situations all over the world. All there. Such a useful book, that one. Old ones, new ones, old-fashioned ones, I mean. And in the back, there's lots of drawings. This one hasn't got as many stage-by-stages in. It's more kind of like a tips and techniques type book for boats. But all the drawings are there for you to use to either copy, put some tracing paper over, or whatever. But there we go, loads of them. And that is What to Paint Boats and Harbours in acrylic. Really useful book that if you're into painting boats. The other one, of course, The Absolute Beginner's Guide to Acrylics. This is a lovely book, and it's already, according to my publishers, a world bestseller. This one has actually got lots of tracings in it, which you can use. There they go, tracings in the middle, and you just pull those out. Now you either use the tracings or you just use them as a reference. But it's full of tips and techniques in acrylics. So if you've never painted in acrylics before, this will take you all the way through to painting on paper to canvas. So now, time for some paint on this canvas. And I'm going to my Stay Wet palette. If you haven't got a Stay Wet palette and you're painting acrylics, you're wasting a lot of paint. Look, take the lid off that. Mine, it's like my watercolour palette. It's a real mess. But I've got paints in there that I've had on the go for 6 weeks, maybe even 2 months. You've got a bit underneath here that you wet. That's moist. Then you put that filament on top, then squeeze the paint on top of there. When you finish painting at the end of the day, put the lid back on and it keeps it moist. Sometimes the only reason I throw out my paint is because it's actually got mouldy because it's been in there for so long. So you're not wasting paint. Now, what a lot of people do when they're painting is do the drawing first. In watercolours, that's fine. But if you were to do a drawing here of the boat, for instance, then you put your sky on top, you've just covered up all your drawing. So the easiest way is to put the sky on top first, and then once it's dried, put the drawing on top of that, and you'll still see the drawing. But you don't have to carefully go around bits. And what I've got here, I've got hardly any water in my brush, it's just a damp brush. Cobalt blue, bit of that, and titanium white. There's lots of different whites. Titanium white is a good standalone white, but it's also a good mixing white. Far less confusing just to use one white. Titanium white and cobalt blue. I'll slap that on there first. And I'm going to have a strong sea in this one, therefore I need a strong sky as well. As I'm coming further down, I'm going to add more white to the mix. There. Fill in the canvas. The brush I'm using is my watercolour brush, the Aquafine brushes, fabulous brushes. I use them for watercolours and I use them for acrylics. And this is my 1.5 inch flat brush. Coming down. A little bit more white. And I'm coming back 2/3 of the way down the canvas here. It's a mess, but it'll be right. Go all the way from side to side, don't stop. Don't paint it carefully, because look, I'm getting brush marks. Go all the way across. Big strokes. Bit more white down there. Now, into that blue and white mix that I've been using, I'm adding a little bit of Payne's Grey. Pop that there. Oh God, that's scary. I'm petrified. Don't be afraid of the dark. Put it in there, and a little bit more. And across the bottom there. Now, wash my brush out well. Wipe it on your frock. And just titanium white. Like that. And coming across. Just a few daubs. Looks a right mess, that. Until I get in with my finger. Like so. And all I'm doing, gently rolling, creating the tops of my clouds. Isn't that simple? That's digital art. Hello. The old ones are the best. And again, a bit more down here. A strong sky. Without too much messing about. And the thing is about acrylics, I'm getting it good and thick and chunky on this canvas, a bit like oil painting, but unlike oils, it dries quickly. In 10 minutes this guy will be dry. And that will just about do for that. About the brushes, that, like I said earlier, is my 1.5 inch flat brush that I've just used for that. And the aquafine brushes are so sturdy, but will hold a lot of water if you need them to. 1.5 inch flat, 3/4 inch flat, number 8 round, and a number 4 rigger. Those are all the brushes I'm using. And they are about 2.5 years old. They get a lot of abuse, those brushes, but they'll stand the abuse. Fabulous brushes, and they're not expensive. I know I keep saying this, but it's true. I use 4 brushes, I use very few colours, and that's not just for these videos. That's all the time, wherever I am, whatever I'm painting. In acrylics, I've got 9 colours. In watercolours, I've got 8 colours. And now it's time for the drawing. The sky's kind of dry. It's a little bit tacky still, but enough to do the drawing on. And now, I'm afraid, it's time for the reading glasses. What I'm doing this from is a photograph I've got of a little old fishing boat. Now that fishing boat is on a very calm, lovely sea. But I want it to be a rough sea. Easy enough to create. Just put it on an angle, either way, so that you can have it tossing about in the sea. So what I'm going to do is draw this on an angle there, going that way. A lot of people have a problem with actually visualising it not straight and flat. You want it another way. So a lot of people have a problem visualising how to do that. If you can't draw it wonky, if you know what I mean, a bit wonky on one side, then just move the canvas slightly and draw it straight as you would. And then when you put it right, it's then on an angle. That makes sense, doesn't it? I, on the other hand, don't have that problem, so I'm just going to draw it straight. And have it there. Bit there. And you notice I've made it slightly off-centre to the right. This is my IKEA pencil. There you go. I keep saying I really should be getting a kickback from that company because I use their pencils all the time. There. Now, the base of the boat there. Sorry, the back of the boat. And now, on there, I've got, actually I'll do back up. And I'm pressing on harder than I would ordinarily so that you can still see the drawing. Now this line of the cabin needs to go in line with that. So it's on the same angle. See what I mean? Now change that slightly. That's better. Don't worry about pencil marks that you've already made. You don't need a rubber. You can just paint over the top of them. There. Do. Put there. And now this disappears around there. I've got a door in this. Little window there. And a big window there. And a couple of windows there. The other thing about painting from photographs is once you've got the drawing in and you've got everything you want, put the photograph away then, create your own colours, use your own colours. Otherwise you end up just trying to recreate a photograph, and in that case, why not just frame the photograph? Make your own composition out of it. A bit there. On top of here I've got some boaty bits. That's a nautical term for you, boaty bits. I've no idea what this is, but it's there. And you can see what I'm talking about. The paint's not quite dry yet, but as long as I'm making the mark for myself to follow, that's all I'm bothered about. A couple of bits there. And here's, it's not a mast, sorry, a mast. I think it's actually radio or something. A bit there, and a bit there. And I've got an exhaust stack, I think that is. And here I've got my railing coming all the way around. And a little bit here. And down here, the hull of the boat. On here I've got quite a lot of buffers, tenders, I don't know what they're called. I'm going to cut those down a little bit, don't want that many. And now, actually, got a life belt there. Now a few more boaty bits. These are not there, I'm just sticking in some bits and pieces. Don't know what they are, but they had a little bit of interest to it. And across here, actually, I have a bit of colour there. Across here, I'm going to have the sea coming in. Now, I know you don't believe me, but from now on, this is such an easy painting. Now, in the actual photograph, the boat was blue. I'm going to paint it red, just because I can. I'm using my number 8 round brush now, and I've got crimson here. Like so. And fill that in there. I'm allowing for the fact that I'm going to have quite a bit of shadow into this, especially into this end. Therefore, not particularly bothered about filling it all in. Roughly fill it in, but if there's bits of canvas showing through, that's fine. Because of course we've got the pre-stay up there as well. So that's just crimson. Almost down to the sea. But I've got that little bit on the bottom there. I hope we're all doing well with this lockdown, coronavirus lockdown. For those of you that watch this video in about 2 years from now, you'll wonder what the heck I'm talking about. But this is the stage when everybody's got to stay at home. And that's why I'm doing so many YouTube videos just recently. Because I've got to stay at home as well. By now I would be on the road all the time. But instead, I'm enjoying talking to you, and it's really nice to be at home for a change. It's amazing how many people don't cope with this very well. Now, a little bit more water into it. Got hardly any water into that bit. Like that. Coming round here. Of course, I live out here in the countryside, and so you get quite used to not seeing a load of people all the time, apart from when I'm on the road. But for people that live in big populated areas, it must be, I think, a bit more difficult. I don't know, could be talking rubbish. I had a friend say to me the other day, "Oh, it's so hard being in lockdown. I haven't been to Sloane Square in weeks. My roots need doing." First world problems. Bit there. Bit there. You see, hull of the boat done. The shadow will make all the difference to that. But whilst I'm in with that red, I'm going to have a little bit on top. All with a number 8 round brush. You can see how I can get a lovely fine point to this brush. And I destroy this brush if I'm painting ivy growing up trees or something like that. I smash it and stipple on, and I'll get a lovely effect. Then when you go back in, wash it out again, it goes back to shape. Fabulous brushes. And this one is about £2.50. They're for nothing. I'll leave that for a second then. You notice I've still got my reading glasses on. It's got these fiddly little bits here. Now, a little bit of Payne's Grey. I'm going to pop that in there. Of course, the other thing about being home all the time is the dogs get spoiled even more. Frank and Bert, the 2 Labradors. Those people on Twitter will know Frank and Bert. They're on there all the time. Keep thinking about them having their own page, but I'm a bit worried they'd have more followers than me. And they love their breakfast in the morning, especially toast. Or should I say my breakfast. A bit more Payne's Grey there. There. Now, it's time for the cabin on the boat, which is white. So anything white, when it's in shadow, have a touch of blue to it. On this side, I'm going to leave it just white. There. Again, with my number 8 round brush, just the tip of the brush. Painting around the windows. This is where red wine helps the steady hand. Not that I drink, obviously. But just making sure I've got it filled in. Now, a little bit of blue into that white for that side there. And actually, that's nearly the same colour as the sky. So I'm going to put a tiny touch more white into it. There we go, that's better. Bit around there, a bit in the life belt thing. And all the way down to the bottom there. A little bit on this side. And I'm going to need a little bit more white onto that. A bit more white. That's better. Again, white with the tiniest touch of blue. We'll have that there. Like so. Now, for once, to my little brush, my rigger brush. Got a clump of white there, look. Right. Now, my rigger brush, I'm going to use titanium white, just titanium white to start with. And I'm going to do these bits on the top. The rigger brush, this is a number 4 rigger brush. And don't forget, I keep saying, these are actually watercolour brushes that I'm using. Aquafine brushes, they're fabulous. During this lockdown, we've had orders on my e-shop from all over the world, places that we don't normally send to. We send quite a lot to the States, but we've sent them to Australia and all over the place. Oops, that was a wobbly bit there. And I've got some white on this side as well. This is to do with the radio, I think. All of this stuff. Now, a little bit of blue into that. So it's white but darker. White in shadow, there. Again, a little bit of blue. Actually, no, I've changed my mind on that one. A little bit of Payne's grey. Here and there. Some of that on that little triangle thing. Again, lots of people think I know a lot about boats because the publishers, Search Press, have had me paint so many books on boats or boats and harbours. I actually don't know anything about boats. Even though I live in Northumberland, which is next to the sea, I still don't know anything about boats, but I quite like painting them. Now I've got a little bit of red on there. I don't know why, but it looks nice. Just reinstating a bit of white there, that's better. Now, into the windows and stuff. Still, sorry, again, back to my number 8 round brush. Into the windows, bit there. That's Payne's Grey and Cobalt Blue mixed. Bit there, a little bit there, that little one. And one there. Big one there. I'll have a window in the top of the door. And on the door itself, I'm going to have a little bit of raw umber. As in watercolours, raw umber is the only brown I carry. So I've got my raw umber as a nice standalone brown. If I put a touch of blue into my raw umber, I've got sepia. If I put a touch of burnt sienna into my sepia mix, I've got Van Dyke brown. If I take my raw umber and burnt sienna together, I've got burnt umber. So I've actually got 4 brown from one tube. Far less confusing than carrying loads of colours. Now I want a little bit more burnt sienna into the raw umber. A bit there. Coming down. I'm going to have that coming down there as well. And now a little bit of Payne's Grey onto that as well. A bit there. And coming down here. And finally on that little bit, a touch of white. Now I'm going back to my rigger brush and I'm going to do the rail bits around the side. I'm starting off with Payne's Grey, just Payne's Grey on my rigger brush. I'm going to have those here, coming around and down here. And bring those down to the top of the hull. Now, a few little bits of white on there as well. Actually, no. Whilst I'm still in with the Payne's Grey, I'll have those sticky bits there. Sticky bits. Another nautical term for it. Bit there, bit there. And a bit of Payne's Grey there as well, for the inside of the hull. That's all with my rigger brush. And a little bit more Payne's Grey. Payne's Grey is such a lovely colour. I don't like it in watercolours, but in acrylics it's a nice way of mixing black and different shades of grey. Shades of grey. Now for a few bits of white. Onto that rail there, look. Like so. A little bit there. And shall I have a little bit of white up there? Yes, I will. have now that little life belt, life buoy, whatever it is. So a little bit of crimson there, and a little bit of Naples yellow. Naples yellow is a lovely colour. It lifts things, the light. But for this case, I just wanted to make it a different red. Bit there, and a bit there. Now a little bit of white. Just titanium white again. There. For these tenders, buffers, whatever they're called, any old colours, I'll have a bit of cobalt blue, I think, for one. There. And that one there. Now a little bit of white. I'll have one of those there. And there. And now, actually, I'll have a little bit of white there as well. And now I need to let that dry before I put the shadows in it. And now it's time for the shadow all over that boat, here and there. So I've got a lovely colour here, it's called Deep Violet. I've got my Deep Violet there. And a touch of Payne's Grey into it to darken it even more. There. Deep Violet is really nice if you're painting heather or moors and stuff like that. Put a bit of white into it and that's your lighter bits of heather. Lovely colour. And starting off in the windows, still with my number 8 round brush, a little bit in the top there, and then down the side, like so. Again here. And in there. And now, where the roof of that cabin meets the actual cabin itself. Nice dark line across there, look. And that makes that roof sit down onto the cabin. That would give a bit of shadow there. That bit there. Inside the life belt. There. And there. A little bit down there. And now, actually a bit there. Yeah, that's all right. Now underneath the lip on the bolt. And you notice this is the same dip of paint that I did the top bits with as well. That's how much paint these brushes will hold. Now, that side of the buffer, which will cast the shadow on there as well. A bit there. And inside it there. And on here. Now, more water, actually a little bit there. More water into the same brushful of paint, just to dull down that end. A bit more water. And that gives gives the boat its shape. Now what I'm going to do, a few tiny touches of white here and there on the tops. There, that's the boat done. Now it's just a matter of slapping on a big C. That's all the fiddly bits done now, so I don't need my reading glasses anymore. So now it's into the sea, and it's a 3/4 inch wash brush for all of this. Again, my Aquafine 3/4 inch flat brush. And at this stage, when I do the sea, at some point I'm going to practically destroy this brush. But, like I said, this is over 2 years old, about 2.5 years old. It will go back to shape as soon as I wash it out again. I'm starting off with that cobalt blue, Payne's grey and Hooker's green mix. Cobalt blue, Payne's grey and Hooker's green. But there's quite a few colours going to go into this sea. I'm starting off here, look. Taking it into the back bits that I've already painted. Start and think about, at this stage, where you want your sea to be bashing up against. Just a few daubs. At this stage, a little bit more blue into the mix. I'm basing it all on the same mix, the cobalt blue, Payne's grey and Hooker's green, because the cobalt blue is the blue of my sky. Don't change your blues for anything natural. Like that. Now a little bit more green into the mix. See, different colours going in here and there. Now a little bit of brown, raw umber. Bit of this, bit of this, bit of that, bit of the other. Slap it all on. A few bits of brown look. And just think of different shapes. Now, back to the original, slosh that brush out there, back to the original of the Hooker's green, cobalt blue and Payne's grey. A bit more blue in that, I think. Yep, that's better. And here and there, of course, because I'm dabbing on like this, I'm bound to leave little bits of my understain showing through, which is good. It kind of like makes everything sit together. That's the base of your painting. Now, get in there with my finger. More here, onto the base of the canvas. And now, slosh that brush out now. And because all this is still wet, as I put white on, I'm going to pick up bits of the undercolour, look. So it's not just white. Just daubing on here and there. But the white is very effective. Don't overdo it. Don't do overkill. It's amazing, people go, God, that's effective, I'll have some more of that. And you end up with no sea left, just a lot of white. Keep your effective bits to a minimum. Now, a little bit of Payne's grey into the blue mix, into the blue and green mix, a bit more Payne's grey. I've darkened it, look. some out here. I'm finding it difficult to find something to talk about on this bit, to be honest, for the simple reason that it's just more of the same. Same brush strokes, different shapes, different directions of flow. And there you see, I've managed to find something to talk about. It's very difficult for me to shut up. And again, back in there with my finger. I'm just moving paint around here, look. Dabbing on here and there, rubbing here and there. Now, the bit under the boat, I want white. So I'm making sure I've got no other colour left in that brush. And just my white. And I go up to the boat now. Got a bit of a wake coming out here, look. Where the boat's been. But again, think of the shape, the direction you want them to go in. And as I say, I'm picking up bits of the undercolour now. And just dabbing. And again, dip into my white. Corner of the brush, look. Top a few bits out there. Just jiggle and mess about, really. Have a bit of fun with this. Sea is so good to do because you can put loads of colours of it, like I've done here. A few touches of white down here. Now, this is what I'm talking about with destroying the brush, which is made for it. It'll stand it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash the brush out with. Get some white ready, here look, like so. I've got just white there. Now, split the brush. Look. See? Split it. Make a right mess of it. And again. Now what I'm going to do, bits of see what difference that makes. Now that boat is crashing into that wave, or that wave is crashing onto that boat. A little bit more there, I think. Finally, oh, by the way, look, I washed that brush out. Now it's gone back to shape. Finally, to my rigger brush, and with white, we'll have a few seagulls over here. Look, it's a tick with a stick. stick. Now a little bit of dark underneath them here and there with a touch of Payne's grey. And a bit of dark down there. I've just stuck my hand on there. So, ruination, end of picture. No, it's not. Get a bit of blue, bit of white. Put that on there like so. Wash out, squeeze out, and soften it in a bit. There. Disaster averted. Acrylics, about the most forgiving medium there is. I love them. And there we go. No need to take the tape off. It's done. A very simple canvas with just one fiddly bit in the middle, i.e. the bolt. And there we go. Again, a finished painting. I hope you enjoy giving this one a go, because once you've got the fiddly bit out of the way, the bolt, the rest is just slap it on. It's really good brush technique, this kind of painting, because you use every side, every angle, every part of your bolt, every part of your brush, sorry. The colours I use, System 3. These are the System 3. Quite big tubes, those. And on my website, everything I use is on my website. On my website, these are only £2.70 a tube for quite a big tube. The brushes I use, I've got a 3/4 inch flat again, a 1.5 inch flat, the number 8 round, and the number 4 rigger. Those are all of the brushes. There's the rigger. Those are all of the brushes. And as I said, if you're painting in acrylics, get yourself a stay wet palette, because they save you a lot of wasted paint. The brushes, the books, sorry, again, the Bolts and Harbours in acrylic, which is quite an old one actually, well, probably about 5 years old that now, but still sells all over the place. And the Lifesaver for acrylics. If you're starting with acrylics, get that book. It's showing you everything. And everything is available on my website, charlesevансart.com. Have a look. See you soon. Bye bye.